Group called the Young Communists, and you were a member, is that right?
I'm not exactly sure which group you're referring to.
Well, the formal name of it is the Leninist Communist Young Union of the Russian Federation, and it's also known as the Leninist Komsomol of the Russian Federation, and it's commonly referred to as the Young Communists. Were you a member?
Senator, I was born and grew up in the Soviet Union.
Yes, ma'am, but were you a member of the
Hey everyone, welcome back to Capitol Insights. Today, I'm diving into an intense Senate hearing that recently took place. Senator John Kennedy questioned Professor Saul Omarova, President Biden's nominee for Comptroller of the Currency. The questioning got really tense, especially around Omarova's background in the Soviet Union and her academic works. Let's break it down. Kennedy asked Omarova about her childhood in the Soviet Union and if she was part of the Young Communists, or Komsomol. This question aimed to dig into her ideological background. Kennedy kept asking if she had formally resigned from this group, but Omarova clarified that membership automatically ended as kids grew up. Next, Kennedy dove into her academic history. He raised questions about her college thesis on Karl Marx's economic theories. Kennedy seemed concerned about its implications. He also mentioned her studies included scientific communism. These points painted a picture Kennedy seemed eager to link to her current stance on U.S. banking policies. If this breakdown is helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. Kennedy brought up Omarova's 2020 paper proposing a shift of private bank accounts to the Federal Reserve. She argued this would reduce risks in the financial system, but some see it as radical. Kennedy pressed her on this idea, implying it was too much government control. He also mentioned another paper advocating for a national investment authority to tackle climate change by weakening the oil and gas industry. Kennedy questioned whether Omarova's vision aligned with American economic values. Omarova pushed back, clarifying she doesn't subscribe to communist ideology and shared her family's suffering under Soviet rule.
You used to be a member of a group called the Young Communist, didn't you?
Senator, are you referring to my membership in the Youth Communist Organization while I was growing up in the Soviet Union?
I don't know. I wanted to ask you that question.
Well, Senator,
There was a group called the Young Communists, and you were a member. Is that right?
I'm not exactly sure which group you're referring to.
Well, the formal name of it is the Leninist Communist Young Union of the Russian Federation, and it's also known as the Leninist Komsomol of the Russian Federation, and it's commonly referred to as the Young Communists. Were you a member?
Senator, I was born and grew up in the Soviet Union.
Yes, ma'am, but were you a member of that organization?
Everybody in that country was a member of the Komsomol, which was the Communist Youth Organization, because
You were a member?
that was a part of normal progress in school.
Have you resigned
From the youth,
from the Young Communists?
you grow out of it with age, automatically.
Did you send them a letter though, resigning?
Senator, this was many, many years ago. As far as I remember how the Soviet Union worked, was at certain age, you automatically stop being a member of that
Could you look at your records and see if you can find a copy of your?
Senator Kennedy, I don't interrupt. I almost never interrupt these, but
Well, you always interrupt me, Mr.
no,
President,
actually I
and
don't.
I
Not nearly as
won't
many
pursue-
times
I
as I'd
won't
like to.
pursue
No,
the line of
she
questions.
renounced her Soviet citizenship.
Well, I understand that, but you're not the witness. She is. Would you look at your records and see if you can find a letter of resignation for me?
Senator, as I explained, I was part of the Soviet population.
Yes, ma'am. I got that part. I just want to see if you look at your records and see if you find a letter of resignation. Let me tell you what, I've spent a lot of time on your record, and here's what I found. Look, this is America. You can believe what you want, but we can't just let anybody be controller of the currency. You wrote your thesis in college at Moscow State University on, the title was Karl Marx's Economic Analysis and the Theory of Revolution in the Capital. but you won't send Senator Toomey a copy. You studied at Moscow State University, scientific communism, which is the science regarding the working class struggle and the socialist agenda. In 2019, not 30 years ago, in a Canadian documentary, you called the financial services industry, quote, a quintessential asshole industry. You wrote a paper called Systemically Significant Prices, calling for the federal government to set wages, food, gas prices. In 2020, you wrote a paper called The People's Ledger, where you said we need to abolish bank accounts and make everybody set up an account at the Fed where the federal government will have access to your data. In 2020, you wrote another paper called The Climate Case for a National Investment Authority, where you said what we need to do, the oil and gas industry, is have the federal government bankrupt them so we can tackle climate change. In 2019, you joined a Facebook group, a Marxist Facebook group, to discuss socialist and anti-capitalist views. Now, that's what I see from your record, and you have the right to believe every one of these things. You do. This is America. But I don't mean any disrespect. I don't know whether to call you professor or comrade.
Senator, I'm not a communist. I do not subscribe to that ideology. I could not choose where I was born. I do not remember joining any Facebook group that subscribes to that ideology. I would never knowingly join any such group. There is no record of me ever actually participating in any Marxist or communist discussions of any kind. My family suffered under the communist regime. I grew up without knowing half of my family. My grandmother herself escaped death twice under the Stalin regime. This is what's seared in my mind. That's who I am. I remember that history. I came to this country. I'm proud to be an American. And this is why I'm here today, Senator. I'm here today because I'm ready for public service.
This was an emotional moment as Omarova tried to separate her beliefs from her background. The hearing became a larger debate on ideology, policy, and values. Whatever your stance, the exchange raises questions about what we expect from those leading our financial institutions. If you enjoyed this in-depth look, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content on current events and political analysis. Thanks for watching and see you next time.